Two bizarre incidents said to involve related extraterrestrial contacts are known to have occurred in the small rural town of Todmorden on the Lancashire-Yorkshire border in England. Still unexplained is the claimed alien abduction of police officer Alan Godfrey on November 28, 1980. At the time, Godfrey was investigating another strange case, circumstances around the fatality of Polish miner Zygmunt Adamski on June 11th of that year. He had been found deceased on a pile of coal, having no visible signs of injury apart from some marks resembling burns. 56-year-old Adamski had gone missing from his home in Tingley near Wakefield 5 days before the discovery, when he had gone out to do some shopping. His body was found 20 miles from his home at a coal yard in Todmorden and was lying as if placed on top of a pile of coal. He was wearing a suit, but there was no shirt, and his watch and wallet were missing. Strangely, his clothes had been, quote, improperly fastened, and also his hair had been cropped short in a roughly cut kind of manner. The mysterious burns on the back of his head, neck and shoulders baffled the coroner, James Turnbull, as did the fact that, although Adamski had been missing over 5 days, he had only 1 day's growth of beard. Later calling it the biggest mystery of his career, Turnbull also agonised that the question of where Zygmunt had been before he died and what had caused his death simply could not be answered. Routine forensic checks had also found a strange ointment that seemed to have been smeared on Zygmunt's burns. The substance could not be identified by the scientists, and extensive checks failed to uncover any record of Zygmunt receiving treatment at any hospital during the 5 days of his disappearance. The questions persisted regarding the origin of this inexplicable ointment and who had applied it to Zygmunt. As well as the usual investigators, including police and coroners who were involved in the case, a famous ufologist, also called Adamski, offered his own astonishing theories on the tragedy. He believed that aliens from deep space had abducted the Yorkshire miner by mistake. His speculation of an extraterrestrial encounter was fuelled by an experience of the policeman who had been first on the scene in the original discovery of Zygmunt's body, Alan Godfrey. 6 months after the discovery of Adamski's body, PC Godfrey reported an even more bizarre and he believed related occurrence. On November 28th in 1980, he was on duty in Todmorden at 5 a.m. It was a wet and windy night and he was investigating straying cattle, which were roaming loose around a local housing estate. As he drove down Burnley Road, he observed what he thought was a bus that had accidentally skewed across the road. It was not, and it was then that he witnessed a huge, white, dome-shaped spinning object which appeared in front of him, before blinding him with a flash of light. Godfrey blacked out and regained consciousness 20 minutes later, finding himself 30 yards away from the incident and with no memory of what had occurred during intervening time. He returned to the scene of his sighting and the road was dry, despite the downpour of rain. A bus driver later also claimed to have witnessed the aftermath of a UFO landing. It also later emerged that 3 police officers who were out searching for stolen motorbikes on the moors nearby observed a steel blue light, while officers in Littleborough and another witness in Cliviger also saw the same strange craft. Godfrey's story quickly became national news, with speculation about his possible abduction by aliens, particularly as, like Zygmunt Adamski, he now bore an unexplained burn. According to some, his experience transformed Todmorden into Britain's Roswell. Godfrey had gone on to describe the peculiar object as a 20 feet high and 14 feet wide diamond-shaped aircraft which was hovering 5 feet off the ground while spinning on its axis. He tried to radio his police station, but his radio was dead. he found that neither would his car start, so he quickly sketched out what he saw on his notepad. There had been a sudden flash of light which temporarily blinded him, and he lost consciousness. In his next memory of conscious awareness, he was still sitting in his patrol car, but 30 yards further down the road, and it was also 30 minutes after his last memory. The massive object was gone, but had left its imprint on the landscape. Godfrey said that when he got out of the car and observed the road's surface, it was like a whirlpool. The craft's rapid revolutions had sculpted the dead leaves, twigs and other debris into a large natural spiral. In the aftermath of Godfrey's encounter, he received visits from the Ministry of Defence, correspondence from a Russian scientist, and widespread interest from the world's press. The following year, he decided to undergo hypnosis in order to uncover memories of his possible abduction. In 1981, he underwent 3 hypnosis sessions during which he related being on board the craft and then physically examined. During the hypnotic regression, Godfrey recalled how a beam of light had blinded him and caused him to pass out before waking up inside a room where he was being medically examined by 8 small beings and a humanoid. His reported encounter correlated with the 30 minutes of lost time he had experienced. The itchy red mark found on his foot and his split boot were also explained by his recollection of having had bracelets attached to his legs while undergoing the examination. There seemed to be one beneficial outcome of Godfrey's encounter. He had been unable to father any more children following an incident when he had been kicked in the groin, but after his alleged alien encounter, his wife reported seeing a bright flash of light before going to bed. The next morning they were intimate, and shortly after this she confirmed a pregnancy. Another positive was that when Godfrey went public with his story, the other sightings that night and related accounts also emerged. Unfortunately, Godfrey was ridiculed for years, like many who claim to have had encounters with UFOs, leading to reluctance to go on the record for fear of the same sceptical response and poor treatment. After appearing on a plethora of news items, documentaries and TV shows, Alan Godfrey chose to retain his privacy over a 15-year period until in 2015 agreeing to a free talk for Todmorden Council, which raised money for his chosen charities. He was still adamant about the truthfulness of his account, declaring that he had seen, quote, a nuts and bolts craft which was not a trick of the mind. He vowed that he had never seen anything like it and would swear on the Bible that the craft was from somewhere else. He stated in his speech that these objects have been seen so many times above Todmorden, the area is now known as UFO Alley. Todmorden has since become notorious for mysterious extraterrestrial occurrences and has been described as the UFO capital of the UK. In researching his 2021 book on the subject, photographer Rick Moran also uncovered some new evidence about the events. He had attended the Todmorden UFO Club as part of his investigations, where he had met the local bookstore owner. This person informed Moran of a witness who had spotted a UFO earlier that same year when he happened to be accompanied by Godfrey's son. Moran found out about other local witnesses on that night and heard accounts of the tarmac being replaced under the location of the original sighting. Soon after his sighting, Godfrey actually stated that he wished he had never seen the UFO, in particular because of the effects on his children. He declared that it's not easy having a policeman as a father, but when he's a policeman who sees a UFO, it's even worse. He self-published a book in which he claimed that he was forced out of the police force by so-called men in black who tried to stop him from talking to the media. In his 2015 talk, he told the audience that he believes he was pressured from within to retire early from the police. He stated that his superiors transferred him to another police station some distance away, and attempts were also made to have him sectioned in a mental health facility and ban him from the Todmorden police station. ufologists are aware that the US Pentagon has been quietly investigating unidentified flying objects since 2007 and has finally admitted that it cannot explain the behaviour of these strange craft. High-ranking government officials, including Christopher Mellon, a former US Secretary for Defence and Intelligence, and Luis Elizondo, former director of AATOP, concede that there are aircraft in our skies that don't obey the known laws of physics. Even former presidents have gone on record on the subject, stating that there exist footage and records of objects in the skies that we can't identify or explain how they move within their trajectory, that the craft do not have an easily explainable pattern which really justifies people still taking seriously and trying to investigate and work out what they really are. For Alan Godfrey, now 77, this comes as no surprise, but merely confirms what he already knows.